Welcome and thank you for joining Congressman Troy Carter's second Hurricane Ida Resources Roundtable. My name is Dimitri Mercadal, District Director for the Congressman. We are grateful that you're here today. Our panelists are from Fema, SBA, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They're present and will be taking audience questions. Please submit your questions into the chat box here on Zoom. Be sure not to share any personal information in the public chat. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Congressman Troy Carter, representing Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District.
Thank you, Dimitri. Welcome, everyone. I'm Congressman Troy Carter. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join this event. It will primarily be a question and answer session, and I hope that it is informative and helpful to you and your families. Hurricane Ida was an enormous storm and brought with it a wide host of challenges. My staff and I will be working hard to help you all get through this very difficult time and access the benefits and to support all the things that you need to recover from the storm. I have been boots on the ground trying to help constituents access generators, water, food, and ice, and working with our agencies to make our systems run better. I was also glad to join President Biden, FEMA Administrator Griswold, and HUD Secretary Fudge on various tours and meetings in Southeast Louisiana. I think it is important that we have these leaders see firsthand what we're going through so they can understand and be better equipped to support our rebuilding process. I'm also working with Congress to bring back funds for long-term investments to protect our communities from the power outages and flooding. I'm thankful that representatives from these three of the biggest federal agencies involved in the response to Hurricane Ida are here with us today. And they're here to hear from you directly, you, the people. Again, if you have any questions for our panelists from FEMA, the Small Business Administration, or the United States Corps of Engineers, please type them into the chat. I know this has been a very tough time for many of you, and I want to be here to help you. As your member of Congress, my office stands ready to serve you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or my team. Please for follow-up questions from this event or any issues that may arrive after this or with any issues that you may have with federal agencies. My website is troycarter.house.gov, and my office number is 504-288-3777. We're so grateful that you've taken the time to be with us today. We know that this entire ordeal has been very challenging. Today, in Congress, we're fortunate to pass a $28.6 billion relief package. I'm very proud that those resources will be coming to Louisiana to help families rebuild. And as the president has consistently said, when we build back, this time we'll build back better. With that, I'll turn it over to Dimitri to get us moving.
Thank you, Congressman. I will get my camera back on. So thank you again. We will now move on to our panelists. We'll start with Mr. Juan Ayala. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your members of the team from FEMA.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Dimitri. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Congressman, this evening. We've been working very closely with your office to address constituent concerns related to this disaster. We also are privileged to speak with you directly to your constituents tonight and to take questions. Very briefly, we're going to ask the FEMA team to introduce themselves and talk about what program areas they are with. I'm with the Congressional Affairs team, but here to help answer questions as well. And Carmen, if you'd introduce yourself, then Patrick, and then Barbara. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carmen Ojikutu. I am representing the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP. This is a program that will assist you in providing flood insurance for you prior to a disaster. It would be nice to have that so that you don't have the type of financial woes that you may be having if you did not have flood insurance. The NFIP is relatively a inexpensive product to have. It will save you lots and lots of dollars at the end of the day. If you are in a disaster such as this, you're able to resort to getting money right away to restore you back to where you were, whereas dealing with the assistance that we also offer through FEMA, that is the individual assistance, you're not necessarily going to be made whole, and you may need to reach out for some other assistance. So we like to let you know that the NFIP is sold through insurance companies, meaning you can go to your local agent, like an Allstate or State Farm agent, and you can purchase a flood policy that will protect you. There is a 30-day wait, just so that you know that. But that is what you would want to do going forward so that you find yourself in a better position if there's another disaster. So again, I represent the NFIP with FEMA. My name is Carmen Ojikutu. Look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Patrick Holloway. I work also under a program area of hazard mitigation, which does include the National Flood Insurance Program. However, I am here this evening just to represent the multiple facets of different areas of our program. So hoping to be able to answer so at least the basic, skimming the top. And of course, if there's any additional more in-depth questions that may need answers, I'll be sure to record that and be sure to present that back at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Barbara Sedana, and I'm with the Individual and Household Program. And I'm here as a subject matter expert to support Juan. And if there's any questions that maybe he'll look over and ask me to weigh in. And just like was mentioned earlier, if there are more specific programs, then we would take those offline and see if we can find answers rather than get too much in your private stuff on this particular call. But I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Sushil Kumar from Small Business Administration.
Good evening, Congressman and team. Good evening, federal agencies. It's a pleasure to be on board with you folks to address all the issues that might crop up regarding SBA and how we factor into the overall picture of disaster recovery. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And next we have Colonel Zachary Miller from the United States Army Corps of Engineers.
Hi, this is Colonel Zach Miller from the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm here with the Hurricane Ida recovery program from the Corps. We've been here on ground since before landfall. Our first major effort was providing temporary emergency power to critical public facilities. Now that the power has been largely restored to those facilities, we're focused heavily on the Blue Roof program. Just yesterday, it was announced by FEMA after a request from the governor and the state. We've extended the deadline for registration for Blue Roofs to 15 October. You can still register at blueroof.us or 888-ROOF-BLUE. This is a free service that's offered to everyone in the affected parishes. It has nothing to do with insurance. It's completely free to you. Nobody will ever ask you for any money associated with it. And while you should do everything you can to cover your house and protect your valuables in your home, that does not preclude you from getting a roof from us. We have even a month on now seen a pretty good number of folks requesting the roof. So if your temporary measure to protect your home is not working, please do go and register it. And even though the registration ends on the 15th of October, we will be here until the last group is on. Thanks.
Thank you. So next, we want to remind everyone that you please go into chat and put your questions, and please be sure not to put any of your personal information. This is a public site and it is being recorded. We don't want your public information posted anywhere.
Meaning no phone numbers, no social security numbers, anything that you feel or deem may be private. We'd ask that you contact us offline and we're more than happy to help you. I'm going to go to the first question and remind everyone, if you have questions, please go to the chat feature on your computer or device. Type in your questions and I will ask them of our panelists. At this time, let me also thank again all of our panelists for the incredible work that they're doing. We know that your job is not easy. We know that when you have literally millions of people that are in need of limited resources, you're being pulled. And I know a lot of times that we're at the head of that pulling to get resources to the people. And as my grandmother used to say, charge it to the head, not the heart. It's a frustrating and challenging time where we're all fighting to try and deliver resources to all of the people that are affected in the state of Louisiana. So with that, I will go to the first question from Ms. Jeanette Sanders. Why retirees affected by Hurricane Ida do not meet criteria for DSNAP?
So unfortunately, DSNAP is not a program run through Fema. I believe that's run through the state, and I don't know that we have anyone on who can actually speak to that question directly, Congressman.
Okay, looks like she has a follow-up question. She may have realized that and asked a second question, which says, those affected by the 2016 flood who were forced to take the SBA loan and have had financial decrease since 2016 were informed that they do not meet criteria to have SBA loan forgiven.
Congressman, honestly, I don't think I understand that question.
Let me see if
You
I
don't-
can, let me see if I can, I think what she's saying is people that took loans in 2016 and then their finances decreased and then because the criteria to pay the loan, I guess, was one thing and now it's significantly less. They're asking if the criteria is such that they can be forgiven the loan given the changes in their financial status is my take of it.
Fair enough. I'll piggyback off your assessment, sir. And Jeanette, you're always welcome to reach out to the SBA case manager. It's on your statement, and let them know your financial circumstances have changed. Our program on the disaster side has never been a part of a forgiveness big picture umbrella, if you will. And so my suggestion, Jeanette, my apologies for your decrease in financial circumstances. The heart goes out to you, but feel free to reach out to our dedicated case manager, and it's on the phone number is on your statement. Give them your account number and work with them to have your loan restructured.
Shahir, could you also give your phone number as we did before for someone or in case of these matters that someone can make a phone call directly to you or your agency to elaborate on their issue?
Yes, sir. I just put it on to the chat, 916-878-1495, and I'll put the agency's toll-free number also, 800-659-955. Thank you, sir.
So, Ms. Jeanette, you see that there are two numbers that have been added to the chat box, 916-878-1495, or the 1-800 number, 1-800-659-2955, where you can reach representatives that should be able to assist you with that, your issue or any others that you might have. Next, we have Ms. Lawson, who says, for inherited property that was not legally transferred through succession or probate, how can a person with damage adequately prove ownership for resources?
Thank you very much for the question, Congressman. So FEMA has actually, through reforms passed by Congress, been given the authority to expand what is acceptable for proving ownership of property. I think, Barbara, do you have that information as to what would be acceptable documentation? What's been added? I know it's things like utility bills, that sort of thing that can prove you have some additional. Barbara, do you have anything
Looks
more
like
on
we've got
specifics?
short on questions this time.
There's only 11 people on this that aren't related to one of the agencies.
Do you want to give me a couple of questions? Think about a handful of questions. I'll just make some shit up.
I'm sorry,
Congressman, your
Congressman, can you
microphone
mute?
is live.
Yeah, Juan, I can pull up the specifics, but for right now, what I would like to say is the situation that the scenario that Ms. Lawson provides would meet the expanded definition of proof of ownership. The goal was to not have the guidance be so limiting that folks that hadn't transferred the documents were automatically ruled out. And so demonstrating that there was a will and the property was inherited would meet that criteria. And while we're on this call, I'll get more specifics and I can provide as a visual what some of the other expansions are.
Thank you. Actually, Barbara, I have that here right here. So receipts for major repairs or improvements dated within 5 years prior to this disaster. Public officials letter or written statement. Court documents. Mobile home park letter or written statement from the park owner or manager. Mobile home travel trailer self-declarative statement as a last resort. And then an airship self-declarative statement. That is, you are writing down yourself and making it a self-declarative statement saying you have received this as part of your inheritance. So that's new materials that are now acceptable that were not acceptable before this disaster. Thank you, Congressman.
And I might add that is, as was just said, this is, Juan is correct. This is new. We've tried to learn from the mistakes of the past, and we were able to truncate that process a little bit and make the proof of ownership easier than it had been in the past. We recognize that it may not be perfect and we're still tweaking it. So seminars and venues like this give us an opportunity to collect information on how we can improve on our systems. So hopefully that is helpful to you. And I think Ms. Tundra is also asking, is there a list available on a website of that list of acceptable
Available documents? I believe it
Yes.
is available at disasterassistance.gov.
Can you type it into the chat, please?
Yes, sir, we can.
It'll be typed into the chat, so you have access to it, Ms. Lawson. Next, we have a question. Someone asked, what do I do if I was denied critical needs?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. So if you were denied critical needs assistance, you did not identify an emergency need within the first few days. So this is a very limited special program done within the first 10 days of the disaster for new registrations for people who indicate that they have an emergency need, something related to food, water, medicine, and likely that they have been displaced from their home. In this case, also, we accepted power outages that were reported as being substantial as well. So that 10-day initial period was actually extended to an additional, I believe it was an additional 10 days, but that period has expired. So you would be determined to be eligible or not for that critical needs assistance based on how you provided information in your first registration. We did go back and expand the category of emergency needs that was acceptable for this disaster. And so that is taking place. What you can do at this time is look at what other assistance you may be eligible for. There are a number of programs that have been activated for this disaster, including temporary shelter assistance. So if you cannot get back into your home or your home is unsafe to inhabit at this time, you may be eligible for transitional shelter assistance, in which FEMA will pay for a hotel for you to stay in. If you had a hotel where you were staying before you could return home, you may be eligible for lodging reimbursement assistance. That is, you will submit your receipts for the hotel stays you had and may be eligible for assistance there. And again, if you have a home that you are not able to occupy safely, you may be eligible for rental assistance, and that money can be used to help cover expenses to rent an apartment, to rent an Airbnb, or even to stay in a hotel. You can use rental assistance for those. So there's a number of FEMA assistances that are available. To find out what is available for you, because every case is individual and separate, you can call the 1-800 number, and that number is 1-800-621-3362, or go to disasterassistance.gov. And I'll put that phone number and that website into the chat as well, Congressman. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. A viewer wants to know, what do I do if I've been denied?
So there are a number of things that can impact your registration with FEMA and the application. As of today, I believe we have more than 500,000 households have been approved for assistance here in Louisiana. Now, you may receive in your first response that you are not being referred to the individual and households program, or that you are deemed insured, or that we need, there is some question as to your ownership or occupancy of the residence. So when you get a statement like that, it does not mean that you are denied necessarily. It just means that FEMA needs additional information from you. And so, for example, if you have home insurance, FEMA cannot, by law, duplicate any benefits you receive from your insurance company to help you in your disaster recovery. And so we would ask in that situation, if you have identified in your registration that you have homeowners insurance, we're going to ask to see what settlement or denial letter you receive from your insurance company. And then that will help us determine what FEMA programs you may be eligible for. It may also be that multiple people have registered at the same address. And so we need more information proving occupancy or ownership. And a couple of other things. So it could be any number of things. We need you to call into the 800 number or go into disasterassistance.gov to look and see what additional information you might need to provide to FEMA to make sure that we get you all of the benefits that you are eligible for. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Another viewer would like to know, how does hazard mitigation help create resilient communities following a hurricane that is one of the magnitude of hurricane, that is one of the size and magnitude of Hurricane Ida? How does hazard mitigation help to create resilient communities following the hurricane?
This is an excellent question, and thank you for asking that. Without monopolizing too much time here, let me just touch on a couple of points. So when we talk about resilient communities, we're talking whole community approach. But let me just take it from maybe from an individual standpoint of view of being the survivor. If you are registering and you receive damage from the Hurricane Ida or previous damage, there are multiple steps to take from an individual standpoint, whether you're a household, a homeowner, a renter, or a business owner. It may not prevent it, but it helps get you back on your feet immediately, is through purchasing flood insurance. And of course, Carmen can speak more onto that area. From a rebuilding standpoint, if you're registering for disaster assistance, part of that process, and again, I know also our partners over here with Small Business Administration, SBA, as part of their loan application, if you qualify also, there may be additional disaster loan opportunity for you to also initiate some mitigation steps in your rebuilding. So now we're dealing with other partners from a local official community standpoint, city or your parish or town. Those officials work with the state, which also works with us from a federal standpoint. We're all working together into identifying your known risk, any potential gaps that are within your recovery. And then we're working together now and continuing on through other funding mechanisms that may look at it from a whole community approach. So it could be elevation projects within a subdivision that's been repetitively flooded, to increasing stormwater drainage from an infrastructure project. So there's multiple avenues looking at this. Now, specifically back to Ida, again, one thing I want to keep in mind for hazard mitigation is it is steps to take to either prevent or lessen in reducing the damage from that type of event. So we wish to be able to prevent all this. However, we have to be realistic in some of our approaches too, and knowing that insurance is an option. If you can't prevent it, we can get you back onto your feet and make you whole versus disaster assistance. One thing I would like to do, Congressman, is also I'd like to go ahead and put in here, we do have a couple of helplines. So we do have an 800 number that we would love for you to call in to talk more about hazard mitigation. We also have online web content that actually supplies you some publications regarding retrofitting to part of your rebuilding needs. And we also have an email address that we'd like to go ahead and provide you to if you do have any further mitigation questions. Could be flood insurance related, could be overall general rebuilding. And I'd like to go ahead and put that in the chat here for everyone to capture too. Other than that, you just let me know and I'll go ahead and do a copy and paste in there.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. You would add that in the chat, Pat, because one of the things that's important is for those who are on, this is great. And I'm very, very pleased that we have such a healthy participation list. But for people who may not have been able to join, we're going to rebroadcast this. And many of the questions that are being asked by individuals are questions that many others have. So they'll be able to get these answers through the rebroadcast. I have a participant who says, I am an elderly citizen. I have applied for a blue roof. How long should I expect to wait for this blue roof?
Thanks for the question. We aim to obviously get as many done as quickly as possible. Sometimes they're grouped based on the neighborhood or the area so that we can get as many done in an efficient manner as possible. But if you're elderly or disabled, we actually have a team that will come out and make sure that your property is being assessed and you're being taken care of even quicker, if at all possible. To access this, please call the 888 number I gave you. That's 888-ROOF-BLUE 766-3258. I'll put that in the chat and explain your situation to them. And they will be able to get one of those teams out to your property to make sure that you are taken care of as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. Another participant says, my application to FEMA still says pending. It appears to be stuck. Is pending something that should last this long, or should I do something else?
So again, Congressman, every case is unique. So I would definitely recommend that this person call into the helpline number. I have posted that into the chat. It can be pending for a number of different issues, and it may be that we're looking for some more additional information, and perhaps that's not clear in the messaging. So that's why I'd recommend calling. The call center, I would add, is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So find a time that works in your personal schedule and call in and talk to someone specifically about your case who can look into your file and see what may be causing the pending. Thank you.
So to reiterate, if there's anyone out there that has a pending status on your application and that appears to be a time longer than you anticipated, you're free to follow up and call the 1-800 number to double check on your status. Another participant says, my insurance adjuster hasn't come out yet. I'm not sure what coverage I have. What can I do to get FEMA aid so my home does not continue to suffer damage?
Okay, so this is an issue because, as I mentioned earlier, FEMA by law cannot duplicate any benefits that are covered by your insurance. And so until we see your insurance, that is going to limit how much we can determine or how we can determine how much aid may be available to you through FEMA. However, it may be possible for you to reach out to the Small Business Administration, and I'll leave that to Sushil to speak to, and there may be some resources that you can tap into through that agency until you can get your insurance claim situation resolved. I also believe that the Louisiana Office of Insurance, I'm not sure exactly what that office is called, may be looking to help people who are having issues with their insurance agencies. So I'll leave it to SBA to continue on what might also be available.
Congressman Carter, thank you for the question. Juan, thanks for the pass. In situations such as the one that the applicant mentioned, the SBA is able to use the clause called assignment of insurance proceeds. Register with FEMA, apply with the SBA, and then once you are in the system, please ask for assignment of insurance proceeds, because what that does is once the applicant is approved for her particular, his or her share of the proceeds, we can temporarily bump up the amount of the loan to factor in the insurance proceeds coming our way. And that, what it does is pay off the loan at some future date and offers the applicant monies up front, which he or she may not have gotten. Peace of mind, time value of money, paying the contractors, and not having to wait for the insurance adjuster and or dollars and cents getting in the way. So we have to make sure that the insurance settlement is final, but once we know that they have insurance, and we can work with them to figure out the nuances that go with it.
Okay. Got a FEMA determination, but it's not enough money. What should I do?
Sorry, a little computer there. So your determination by FEMA is not a final determination. You have the right to appeal and provide more documentation. So if, for example, there's more extensive damage that you have discovered, or you have received some additional estimates for repairs, you can upload these additional estimates and file an appeal asking for additional FEMA funds. I would though remind folks that this FEMA grant assistance is not a replacement for insurance. And so FEMA's assistance is meant to give you a home that is safe, sanitary, and secure. But we won't be covering things that are beyond our programs. So for example, if you have a 3-bedroom house, but you are an empty nester and it's just 2 folks living there, then FEMA's grant money will be there to assist in repairing 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, but your guest bedrooms will not be covered by FEMA grant assistance. And so in that case, we often refer people to the Small Business Administration because they can provide disaster loans that can help people get beyond FEMA grant assistance. Because as I said earlier, we are not a replacement for insurance, and we do not, it's often the case that FEMA grant assistance is not enough to get you back to where you were before the disaster. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. Okay, this one's from Joe. It's a little long. Joe says, I recently went through a divorce, refinanced my home, and as a part of the refinance, had to get new insurance. Between the time of the insurance inspection and the storm, I did not get that inspection. Am I eligible for FEMA relief given that my final distinction with my new insurer had not been completed?
So this is a case where the individual is going to need to speak with the 800 number. What we will need to see is what insurance settlement and or denial letters he receives from his new insurer. And
Well,
so,
wait, it according to this, doesn't look like it was a settlement or a denial. He was getting a new insurance carrier, and an inspection was ordered, but he never got that inspection before the storm.
okay, so it is still a matter of, does he have an active insurance policy? If he does,
Got
we'll need insurance documentation one way or the other.
So Joe, you should contact the 1-800 number that's in the
Yes, sir. Thank you.
that's in the box there. Okay. Larry wants to know, why was I denied DSNAP if I had food loss?
So food loss is not a loss covered by FEMA. And again, DSNAP is a program run by the state of Louisiana. And so he would need to refer to the state for that answer.
Okay. This participant wants to know, do residents here on visas qualify for FEMA or SBA?
You know, Barbara, perhaps you can speak to this. There are citizenship requirements for FEMA assistance, but I believe there are some exceptions for green card holders. But Barbara, can you speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Work visa specifically would not be eligible. However, as Juan mentioned, there are permanent residents and designations of residency that would be eligible. So best to apply. And if there is any additional documentation that's needed, that would be requested at the time of application.
The answer on the SBA side is piggybacking off of Barbara. Thank you, sir.
Okay. If my house has mold, does that qualify my residence as unlivable? If so, do I qualify for transitional sheltering assistance?
Congressman, so that's a very good point. people can often find that their condition changes as they are going through the recovery process. And so it is very important to keep FEMA updated as you discover any new issues in your repairs and home. There is, again, as a result of additional reforms, there is mold remediation assistance that could be provided as part of your home repair assistance. Barbara, can you speak to whether or not that mold automatically deems a home? Actually, I don't know that it automatically deems it, but that you can request an inspection to address that. But Barbara, anything else you'd like to add on that?
No, you're correct. Post-inspection would be the way to determine whether or not the mold was of the need to have to move out of the home. There are some categories of assistance that allow for the fact that there is definitely mold present and would need some cleaning and sanitizing. However, it may not be of the nature that moving out would be necessary. However, I also wanted to touch on the transitional sheltering assistance that for those who were notified via auto dialer or through the messaging that FEMA has that you are eligible for transitional sheltering assistance, the current eligibility timeframe is through October the 16th. And that means that at any point, if you determined that you had mold and needed to leave, then you would be able to check into a TSA participating hotel in that time frame. If that would be the way to get out while you're taking care of the mold issue. And then at the point where that period has concluded, you would be notified 7 days prior to when you needed to check out if you are in fact going to need to leave on the 16th. So I don't want to muddy the waters, but I wanted to touch on that TSA point as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you explain why I'm hearing so much about flood insurance rating going up dramatically? The National Flood Insurance Agency person told me that we can expect a drastic increase per 2.0.
Thank you, Congressman. The issue of the rate increases. First of all, you would talk with your insurance agent, and if you've talked with them and they've quoted you something different, you would then, the risk rating 2.0 is a more fairer way of assessing risk on an insurance flood policy. So what that means basically is like, if you live near a body of water, right, and someone else lives a little bit inland, let's say 5 miles away, in the past, both of those were charged the same rate. Well, it's really not fair because the person closest to the water is probably going to get more damage than the person who is more inland. So we have revamped the system in order to get a fairer price for everyone. Now, it may mean as an existing policyholder, your rate may go up higher. And that's because, again, we're trying to be fair across the board and assess the property based on the risk. So we're no longer looking at whether you're in flood zone or not in a flood zone, because there are other criteria besides rating. We all know that a flood, the water doesn't just stop when it goes from one zone to another. If it's a heavy rain, the water rains everywhere. So again, this whole endeavor was to make the policies rated for the risk that we are paying out on. So if a higher risk, we're gonna charge higher rates. If it's a lower risk, it'll be less. So yes, there is a new system. It starts, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, October the 1st, for any new business. But if you already have a policy and you have the option between now and April 1, you can, it may not go up automatically. It's only for new business as of October 1, but renewals after April 1st will get an 18% increase. It's on a what we call a glide path, and that's incrementally, it will be increasing year after year until it hits that full risk rating. So I do apologize if you've had that rating, if your agent has told you that your premium will go up, but it is it's the purpose of it is to give it a fairer rating for all those individuals that have a flood policy.
Okay, thank you. This participant wants to know, how do I find hotel use My FEMA aid. How can I find hotels for use with my FEMA aid? Can hotels deny me if I have FEMA assistance?
So there are a couple of different programs that could be used to assist with hotel lodging. And so one of them is the transitional sheltering assistance. And that is where FEMA reaches out to you and lets you know that there is a list of hotels you can choose from and choose to stay, and then FEMA will pay those hotels directly. If you want to use your rental assistance, as I mentioned, rental assistance is another program that people are being awarded. And that money allows you to rent an apartment, rent Airbnb, rent a hotel, and provide assistance. Now, hotels are private companies, and it is up to them to determine who is allowed to stay on their properties. If there is an issue where you have been awarded temporary shelter assistance and you've encountered a hotel in the program, it must be in the program that is refusing to allow you to stay. I would recommend calling the 800 number, again, 800-621-3362, to make sure that we are aware of your situation and to see what other resources or what other hotels could be provided for you. Thank you.
Okay, and this participant wants to know what type of long-term shelter is available, when and if will trailers be available?
So trailers, travel trailers, that sort of program, that is FEMA's most complex program and is available only to those who have sustained a substantial amount of damage that makes their home unavailable. We also take into consideration whether there is rental units available in the community or hotels available in the community. If you are eligible for a trailer through the FEMA direct housing program, you will be contacted. In fact, we have already begun contacting people. That began on September 18th. We have identified households based on their registration with FEMA that have provided to us proof of that amount of damage to their home, and have begun the pre-interview process to see if that can be allocated. We do not anticipate any FEMA trailers being in operation, I believe, before mid-November at this point. There's a number of legal processes that have to be followed. Electricity and utilities have to be established. The units have to be transported. And then we also have to work if there are any city or parish ordinances that do not allow for the placement of those trailers. So there's actually a great deal of work that has to be done before we can install a unit. The process has begun, but we don't anticipate any units going in until mid to late November. Thank you for the question.
This participant says, we have a number of people that were in a challenged, pardon? Somebody's mic is open. This person says that housing situation for many were challenged before the storm. We continue to see homelessness rise with the lack of affordable housing. What, if anything, can FEMA do to assist the many people who find themselves homeless?
So FEMA's programs are primarily directed towards renters and homeowners, people who had lodging before the disaster struck. And so for those who are homeless, that would be a matter be addressed by the local city and parish officials. Now, FEMA does provide financial assistance to local and parish governments to help them in their efforts to manage safety, security, and health issues that are arising in their parish. But those programs would all be managed at the local and state level.
Okay. This individual wants to know, I am a roofer. How can I get included with the Blue Roof program? Apparently this is a contractor who is a local contractor. You know, this has been an issue that I have brought forward many times to all of the agencies about my concern about local, particularly minority, women-owned DBE enterprises that have not had the opportunity to participate in the rebuild These are professionals that have the resources. I'm piggybacking on Mr. Johnson's question. He asked the question, he's a roofer, how can he be involved? I'm going to expand your question, if you don't mind, Mr. Johnson, to ask you all to elaborate on how we can encourage and improve the relationship between those who are wishing to do work with the federal government and those who are actually doing work with the federal government.
Let me start by answering the direct question, which has to do with roofers or other construction companies who believe that they can contribute to this effort. First, by saying that the three contractors, the prime contractors with whom the federal government, the Corps of Engineers, is directly contracted with, continue to add roofing crews, continue to add subcontractors to their roles every single day. Even though we are able to do well over 1,000 roofs a day, we still have tens of thousands of roofs left to do. If you go to blueroof.us, that website, there is a link on there which gives contact information for all three of those prime contractors with whom the government holds a contract, and they will respond to your emails. If they do not, please, I ask that you please contact the Congressman's office. They've been great about letting us know if there's any kind of hiccups, but by and large, they will get back to you. If you're an individual roofer, like just a tradesperson, you'll probably need to get signed up with one of the subcontractors that they have. If you are own a company or work for a company and you would like your entire company to become a subcontractor of them, again, if you go to that website, they have an email, they have contact information, and that's the best way to do it. We are only able to produce as many of these roofs as we are, again, almost 1,000 a day when the weather's clear, because we have such great support and response from the companies here in Louisiana. I checked just a couple of days ago, and 24 of the 27 subcontractors that were working directly for our primes were Louisiana-based businesses, and almost all of them in the affected parishes. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much. A follow-up on that question. The participant wants to know, I am a social worker by trade. What opportunities are there to provide professional services for those who may have been impacted and have counseling needs through FEMA?
So there is a disaster crisis helpline that is available for survivors here for Hurricane Ida. However, that is a program that the state has requested and that FEMA has authorized. I was just going to say, kind of speaking to this question and to the previous question, sir, that a great deal of the work in disaster recovery and response is done by the city and parish governments and state government, who are then reimbursed by FEMA for a lot of their work. So a lot of these programs are being done by locals, organized by locals, managed by locals, who then charge back to the city, the parish, the state, who then charges back to FEMA for reimbursement of those expenses. So there is a lot of contracting available, a lot of work available for the haul and install, the roofers, the electricians, these folks that are being paid by contracts that they have with the parish and state government that then FEMA helps to reimburse with some public assistance funding that is eligible. So that's where the majority is. However, if you have any businesses that would like to reach out to your office, we can provide them documentation on how to do business with FEMA. But I just don't want folks to miss out because the largest share of the pie is being done at the local and the state level. And I want
to reiterate, so if this person is a social worker or a counselor and is interested in providing services, they should reach out to their local government. Is that correct?
Oh, well, I'm saying for most contractors, sir. In that particular case, if they would reach out to your office, we could try to reach out and see.
Okay,
if we can connect them with the crisis helpline.
We'll put them in touch with you.
Yes,
And of course, in the chat box, you have information. In the chat box, you also have our office number, and one of my staff people will be more than happy to assist creating a link between you and FEMA to have a direct conversation. Another question says, what happens if I am denied for a loan from SBA?
Congressman, once they're turned down by the SBA, they are referred back to FEMA for their other needs assistance. One. The other step is if they disagree with our assessment, they have what we call reconsideration rights, where they could ask for a second look, if you will, within a 6-month time frame to validate our decision. So they have 2 routes that they can follow on denial.
Thank you, Sushil. So yes, SBA and FEMA work hand in hand on trying to provide assistance to disaster survivors. So as I mentioned, FEMA will look at your situation and determine what assistance we can provide. And then we often refer people to the Small Business Administration to see if they would be eligible for a loan that would help them cover a number of things that FEMA doesn't cover. However, if they are unable to receive a loan through the Small Business Administration, they may become eligible for additional FEMA resources. So some of the personal property that we would not normally cover may become covered based on their denial by the SBA, but they have to receive that denial first in order to be considered for that additional program. Thank you, sir.
We got time for just a few more questions. So I'm going to ask, Mr. Walker said that he applied for FEMA, but he was sent to SBA. Why is that?
So, sir, just as I was saying, we will take the application, we will assess what FEMA programs are available to that person. But if they have damages, for example, if the TV was damaged and the wiring for their speaker system was damaged as a result of the flooding, that's not damage that's going to be covered by FEMA assistance. If their guest bedroom was damaged, that doesn't tend to be covered by FEMA assistance. And so in those cases, in order to have more options for them, we refer them to the Small Business Administration, who will provide disaster loans, or may provide disaster loans, I should say, that will cover things that FEMA grant assistance does not. And I let Sushil speak to that.
Yep.
Thank you, Juan. Congressman, the framers of the disaster program had in mind that the initial safe, secure, sanitary condition grants came from FEMA, and the bulk of the recovery for the uninsured and the underinsured came from the Small Business Administration. So low interest rate disaster loans are $40,000 for personal property for both homeowners and renters, damages to homes for up to $200,000. And if you're a business owner, you don't have to register with FEMA. You come right to us because they don't have a lending program. So they'd be even more specific for the applicant. The mindset is initial safe, secure, sanitary conditions grant from FEMA, and then the low interest rate disaster loan. And as a package that would take care of the unmet needs created by the disaster. That was the whole idea behind it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Maxwell went to the FEMA Disaster Center in St. Charles Parish and was approved for 30 days of lodging in person. But when he checks the portal, it says housing assistance pending. What should he do?
In this case, Congressman, this is a situation where he needs to look into his individual case by speaking to someone directly, calling the 1-800 number, which again is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
As a follow-up, Mr. Maxwell also asked, he applied for SBA in his name and his wife applied for FEMA in her name. Will that disqualify him and or his wife?
Interesting, interesting question. Let me take that offline without necessarily butchering the answer on hand. If you could have the wife or the husband call me so I understand it better. What we're looking for is if the wife is approved, the husband is disqualified. If the husband applied and the wife is also applying, then they're disqualified. It's only one per household. So we need to figure out.
One appeared to have been FEMA and one was SBA. Does that matter? They both weren't the same agency.
I don't think it matters, but let me drill into the details a little further, sir, because if the wife applied with FEMA and the husband applied to the SBA, no issues. Applying with the SBA does not automatically say no to FEMA and vice versa. But I want to make sure that a lot of times what will happen, which I don't believe is the scope of the question, a lot of times what will happen is different members of the household will apply differently, and then they'll find out that somebody's already applied, and then it's duplication. So that gets to be a turn down. So I want to make sure that is not the case. But it doesn't sound like it is. but just want to make sure to remove all doubt.
Congressman, this does bring up a point that I made earlier that I think it would be good to reinforce, which is just make sure that FEMA is aware of all of your situation. If anything changes in your situation, make sure that we are updated. So, I would just make sure that the spouse is added as a co-applicant in the FEMA registration. So we have that information available. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, so it is now 5 minutes until the hour. I want to take this time as we close. We had a tremendous participation level today. Very pleased with the number of questions, number of participants. Apparently, the popularity of this forum is growing, and we will do another one at some point. I'd like to take this time to personally thank all of our agency heads for doing an incredible job at being able to answer the questions very honestly and forthright. And when there was one that an answer is not as readily available, extending your phone numbers and websites to help the constituents reach you is something that's critically important. And I want to personally thank each of you individually for the great work that you're doing. For all of the citizens who have called in, sent in your questions, typed in your questions in the chat box. I thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. I ask that you would hopefully share these answers, which are universal. Many of the questions that you're asking, your family, your neighbors, or friends may have the same questions. And if you would be so kind as to share these answers with other citizens, that would be greatly appreciated. Once again, it's important for the viewers to know that this is being recorded and will be rebroadcast for individuals to access and take advantage of the resources that were provided tonight. We thank you all for being with us, and we will see you next time at the Congressman Carter IDA roundtable discussion with federal agencies to provide resources during this time of rebuild. And remember, when we rebuild better. God bless you and have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, everyone.